All right, with me is Jamie Plunkett from hornfrogblitz.com, our TCU 24/7 site. And Jamie, looking for some thoughts here on the TCU roster now that it's been announced that Xavier will travel to TCU again for the Big 12 Big East Challenge this year. Looking at this TCU team, Jamie Dixon is returning for his ninth season at TCU. The Horned Frogs coming off their third straight NCAA tournament appearance. This year, they lost as the 9 seed in that 8-9 game to Utah State. They finished at 21-13 overall, 9-9 in Big 12 play. Just seeing what they've done through the portal, it feels kind of similar to Xavier in that it's a totally revamped backcourt that looks like maybe at least maybe three new starters there. And Ernest Uday, the transfer from last year that came over from Kansas, seems like a lot's going to revolve around him, but production-wise, he still hasn't done a ton. Just give me your thoughts on where this roster is at and where things are headed.
Well, it's still very much under construction, as a lot of rosters across the country are right now. Like you mentioned, they've brought 3 guys in the transfer portal. Frankie Collins, point guard from Arizona State, Noah Reynolds, a shooting guard from Green Bay, and Brendan Wenzel, another shooting guard who's actually 6'7" and might play that 3 or 4 spot a little bit more in TCU's offense from Wyoming. All 3 of these guys have a lot in common. They're good ball handlers. They're good off of screens, like you mentioned. A lot's going to depend on Ernest Uday next season and that very athletic big man role. Can he elevate his game? The thing about him really is that he didn't get a lot of minutes at Kansas, and last year was really truly his first full season of college basketball. So how he develops and progresses his game this offseason is going to be pretty critical. Beyond those 3 guys, they hosted Khalif Battle, the Arkansas transfer, this week. He's been in town for a couple of days. I know Kansas State is also in the mix there. Frogs are trying to get him to Fort Worth. Matt Cross from UMass is another guy that the Frogs have had some conversations with. But beyond that, they've got a couple redshirt freshmen that didn't play at all this year, Jace Posey and Isaiah Manning, who they're going to expect a lot from in 2024 and 25. And then a freshman class that's a little bit bigger than we tend to see these days, a 4 freshman incoming class with a couple guys that are expected to play right away as well. So still under construction, a lot of unproven commodities in the mix as well. So it's going to be an interesting offseason as the Frogs continue to build their roster.
Feels like both teams are in a similar spot in that regard. You mentioned it's still hard to figure out exactly where this team is at as they continue to add pieces here through the portal. But what would you say is the overall sentiment right now around the fan base? Are they pretty positive about where things are headed for next year?
I think so. I think they are. When you overhaul a roster like TCU is doing this offseason, there's some trepidation, I think, about what the result will look like for the following season. But TCU has a couple of years ago to lean back on when they brought 6 transfers into the mix. And that, worked out pretty well with Emmanuel Miller, Micah Peavy, Jacoby Coles, Xavier Cork, guys that came in and were the core of this program for 3 years. They're hoping that this recruiting cycle will be something similar and that the results will continue to bear out.
Jamie, thank you.
My pleasure.